was great. People loved it. Mr. Kiren, Rijiju, Vijender just loved it. You have to remember, it's very hard to explain to people about an international level, national level Panja event because it's not what we're used to. There's an international table, there's rules, they have to hold on to things, there's a referee, there's things to follow. But it's so when they see it, like I said, it's something that everybody really takes.
Hi, Parvin. Welcome to the podcast. How are you doing?
Great, and thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. Now, first things first, where does your passion for sports come from?
My passion for sports comes from having been a sportsman from a very young age. I did grow up both in Toronto and Delhi. I was put into Taekwondo also at a very early age. Panja was something that I partook in, but wasn't great in, but it's something I've had a lot of passion for.
I've been told you're from Modern School and Hansraj, which are two institutions very big on sports.
Yes, they are.
Okay, I'm guessing some of that sort of comes from the nurture and the institutions you've been a part of as well.
Without a doubt, without the platform that the school and college provided, because I was in the school basketball team at Modern School Hazamdiar. So I was in the school basketball team and the college basketball team as well. Both of them, what was interesting was in both of them, I was there in a phase where we were one of the first people making that team. The basketball team in both in school and college, we were the first ones kind of putting it together and creating a legacy, sort of going forward and putting down the roots. So especially in school, let's say our basketball team was full of characters. We were, most of us were from the same class, the same group, so we used to practice, used to have a lot of fun. I still remember, we used to hire like taxis going to different sporting events and, win and lose. There's a lot of, let's say, stories of, winning and losing in different schools. Like I said, it created the, the discipline of waking up and going and competing. And even when I was younger, going and testing for various belts, and even now I've carried that, passion for combat sports with me. I still play basketball now and then when I can go to courts, and play basketball here in Bombay. So that love of sports, of just being out there, and playing and competing. We've always been very competitive, So I think that is something that I have a very strong passion for, and that is literally where it comes for. The love for sports promotion and wanting to be a part and create is that's where it comes from. The roots are from school. Modern School, Vasant Vihar, and Ansraj College.
Makes sense. No, absolutely adds up. But I'm wondering where the love for Panja or arm wrestling comes from. I mean, it's been a part of probably you growing up, but to commercialize it or bring it on to the format of a league is completely different. So wondering where that flew from.
Yeah, absolutely. See, it wasn't just an overnight eureka moment of, let's do a Panja League. It wasn't, of course. It's something that we worked on for a good 3-4 years and conceptualized. And I had been involved in MMA. I started a podcast in 2016 called the MMA India Show.
Oh, wow.
Which became very big on social media. And then it led to a site also, MMAindia.com, which is, so now we're one of the biggest combat sports sites in India, yes, one of the biggest in Asia as well. So, we're accredited media with UFC and won championship. We really saw, another side of sports of the audience. We were able to see, engagement and how the fans engage, especially the Indian fans, and even now from abroad, of how they relate to sport. Then we started another site called Sports India Show to, for cricket and all the other sports. So we've really been involved very minutely in sports from, the news and entertainment side and that side. But of course, when it was coming to a sports promotion, because I did want to get involved in a sports promotion also, I knew that MMA does not have the roots in our country that Panja has. Panja, of course, does come from my childhood. I used to arm wrestle like a lot of other guys, and I'm a Jat, so some of that aggression, I guess, Panja aggression might come from that. A
Also,
lot
it's a
of my
very Delhi
cousins,
thing.
it is, it is. See, a
Mhm.
lot of my cousins. Now, since you're from Delhi, you know, when I was Hansraj, a lot of my cousins were in Shivaji College. So they used to come and visit me, and their way, if they saw somebody who was even slightly built up and had muscles, their way of greeting him or saying hello was like "Panja ladaiga," and they would just lie down on the ground, and the guy was like, "Okay," So they would just lie down on the ground or find a table, and
Mm.
it became, people were surrounded. It became a moment people would just surround to see, because one of the most interesting things I find about Panja is it is a non-violent combat sport. But the great thing about Panja is it's an aggressive sport. You can show strength without hurting the other person too much. And that is, I think, connects with Indianness as well. So you have this aggressive sport, but you're not really harming somebody
Mm.
in the process in a big way. So and Panja has an Indian name, of course. Panja is an Indian name, so it has very deep Indian roots, and it's an international sport as well. So I did see the possibility, if marketed properly, because of course it's all about marketing. It's all about how you position it, how you're taking it to the people. This process, of course, has been was continuing from 2016 to 2019, when we signed up with the federation. And 2020 Feb 2020 Feb 29 2020 is when we launched with a ranking tournament in Delhi at Tyagaraja Stadium, which is where the kabaddi happens. And Mr. Kiren Rijiju and Shri Kiren Rijiju, our sports minister, and Vijender Singh, our international
Yeah.
boxer, were both the chief guests, and they launched it. And it was great. People loved it. Mr. Kiren Rijiju, Vijender just loved it. You have to remember, it's very hard to explain to people about an international level, national level Panja event, because it's not what we're used to. There's an international table, there's rules, they have to hold on to things, there's a referee,
Right.
there's things to follow. But it's so, when they see it, like I said, it's something that everybody really takes to, and it's not something that one can explain, because the audience really experiences it.
Mm.
But it's something that everybody who's been there at the event or watched it really loves and takes to. It's very entertaining, to see guys or girls, really get at it and try to put the other hand down, because there's a certain simplicity in the sport as well, right? It's not too tough to understand, and I feel that has been one of the cons of MMA so far, is people don't understand the rules properly so much, because there is a lot, there's ground game, there's stand-up game, there's grappling, there's a lot of things. So people haven't really gotten, and there's not been much education on that as well. Whereas in Panja, there are rules, of course, there's international standard rules, but they are not so difficult that if you see the fight, you won't be able to understand it. There are fouls, but understanding those fouls doesn't take much time. Like the pad, the elbow needs to be on the pad all the time. And
Mm.
if it lifts, the referee will give a foul. So you see that once or twice, and you realize, okay, that's a foul. It's not that hard to understand. And, even the grip, if the players are not gripping their hand properly, they have 30 seconds to do that. If they don't, then the referee can call for a referee grip, in which he sets the hands then,
Mm.
so, and if you move during that time, the referee can give you a foul, and 2
Interesting.
fouls, and you lose that round. So like I said, there are rules. There are international standard rules. There's an international federation. There's an Asian federation. There's an Indian federation. There are rules. We follow those rules to a T, but they are not so complicated that the audience wouldn't understand them. The audience very clearly understands the basic aim is to put the other guy or girl's hand down.
Mm.
So there's a certain simplicity which I feel the audiences are starting to love, and really going to love going forward as well.
Makes sense. So that brings up an interesting point. You said, obviously, apart from, so education can be a big challenge for any sport coming in, whether that's international or even Indian. And since that wasn't that big of a challenge because it's a relatively easier sport to understand, were there other challenges that you had to face when you were initially launching still a relatively new and niche sport?
Well, I agree. I would say new. I would not call it niche because everybody knows it. But it is niche in a sense that people don't know it's played professionally. That there's a whole amateur scene out there which has been going on. India was one of the 4 countries to found the World Federation. The first 4 countries. So it is ingrained in our culture. It's ingrained in Parsis, in all of their clubs. They have arm wrestling tournaments. There's a lot of places where arm wrestling is played. It's just not widely known. It's in the same place where Kabaddi was before Kabaddi League took off. Everybody knew Kabaddi. Did you know the players? No. Did you know where it was played? No. But we had world-class players. And it took off because people still knew the sport. And when they saw it, they realized, listen, this is not some gully cricket happening. This is international level sport. And that is what people, when they see our players, and the way that we're producing the events and putting it out there, they're realizing that, this is an international class promotion that's been put together. And that's also one of the reasons why we did not want to go direct to the league phase, because the word education again, of course, building a brand, we wanted people to first understand the sport, understand the players, and that we've done 3 events so far. And we have something to show, we're building a brand so that when we are now going to market for the 6 teams, people have already started touching base with us based on the 3 events that they saw. Listen, when you are going to market, can you touch base with us? We want to know, how you're pricing these, what the structure is going to be between the league and the teams. So there's already a certain interest, and we're going to be coming out with 6 teams. There's already a certain interest in these teams. When we go to market now, we haven't hit the market yet, but we will be very soon now. And so carrying forward that thought, that is why we wanted to build the sport first, build these events, see them in the individual capacity first before we move it to the team phase, which is the league. But we are going to have a calendar of events. It's not just going to be the league. The league is going to be a season. We're going to have a ranking tournament every year. And we are going to have mega matches, certain amount of mega matches throughout the year. We're going to start with a lower number, about 3 to 4 every year. And gradually we hope to move up to a larger number, 10 to 12 every year then.
Makes sense. What you also mentioned about Kabaddi or some of these other leagues that have become these commercial giants, a lot of what has worked for them and worked in their favor is they've been packaged very well for TV or media, which is the majority of the way in which an Indian audience would consume a sport or entertainment. So how do you plan to make the Pro Panja League a very commercially crisp and packaged product on TV?
Yeah, well, we're already working towards that. I would say we one thing I needed to get into the heads of the players, because one thing I noticed is that in the amateur tournaments, there was no pressure of doing things on time, so they were just stretched throughout the day and through quite a few days. I knew that from the very first event that we did, we needed to create a crisp 2-hour show for people. Right. So what we did is we did, the first ranking tournament, we did the prelims, which was stretched over 2 days. But the finals of all the weight divisions, we have 9 weight divisions. So we have 6 men's, 2 women's, and 1 specially able divisions. The final of all of these was the show that Mr. Kiren, Rijiju and Vijender Singh and the audience was coming for. We didn't invite an audience before that. So I knew that this was the first taste for these players, and a test for these players of how to do a crisp 2-hour show, because that's what's going to happen going forward. And I have to say, it went off really well. Mr. Kiren Rijiju loved it. Vijender Singh loved it. The audience loved it. We were immediately contacted by some sponsors. Unfortunately, that was 2 weeks before the lockdown. The first lockdown happened. So a lot of those conversations were put on ice for that time, which have been revived now. Having said that, then our Mumbai event, again, we picked a location called the Pierre at the Radio Club in Mumbai, which is surrounded by water 3 ways. And it has the Gateway of India and the Taj Hotel in the back. So that was purposely picked, again, because of the visual factor for broadcast, right? That this is the idea of how we want to be broadcasting it. The location is a part of the whole, broadcast, where you're shooting it, and how you're shooting it. So, and people who have seen it, people abroad have seen it as well. And let me tell you, they are all blown away by the production value. And we will send you a link because we've got some unlisted links. It's not for everybody to see right now on. So we'll send you some unlisted links so you can see as well, so you know what we're talking about. So the production quality, the way we're doing it, because we realize, see, we're not in competition with arm wrestling tournaments because, quite frankly, I say this very humbly, we're already, we're the best in India because, we are the only biggest ones, right? Everything else is amateur. So, but we are already one of the biggest and best in Asia. And, I say this very humbly, the production values that we bring to the table are that the world is watching us. I don't want to say that but the world is watching, and they have seen that something very different and special is happening in India. This promotion called they call it, of course, the Pro Panja League, is happening. And, we have some of the biggest arm wrestlers in the world who are already associated with us. We've got some digital, connections and all with them happening. So there are people all over the world, who are seeing and noticing what we're doing. So the Mumbai event also was packaged as a 2.5 hour event. It was done by a professional, sports company, shot by a TV production company, which does a lot of leagues and everything. So they knew what we were doing, and it was packaged. So when you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. The Goa event that we did recently was part of Mr. Vijender Singh's fight card that happened in Goa recently on the casino top. So we had 2 fights of our bout, which were part of that event as well. So again, we and the audience both, of course, our athletes got a chance to see how it is to go live, to have to be there exactly on time and do these events and broadcast. And the audience got to see how Panja was. And I'll tell you, there is a lot of excitement for the sport because there is a certain gap that we are filling, I feel, in the combat sports market. Because like I said, MMA, I feel, has a certain wall that it can reach, unless the UFC has a great viewership in India.
Right.
But as far as live events going on in the country, I think there will be a limited, for now. It might change in the future, and we are trying to change it, even as MMAindia.com, we're trying to change it. But for now, I do feel Panja and arm wrestling can be what MMA and the UFC is in America.
Interesting.
Because Americans, of course, love their combat sports, and the UFC and MMA, and they took to that. So I feel Panja can be that in India.
Interesting. Now, talking about this being a world-renowned, or at least making this a world-renowned product, and it seems like from the look of it that it already has become one. You've also personally spent time living abroad. You've grown up in Canada for a certain part of your life. Since you've experienced that side of the world, especially the Western, more developed sports economy as a fan, and you've interacted with sports bodies there, how do you compare that to the governance and operations in India now that you've taken on the role of a league owner? Have your expectations been met?
I would say, since I lead this, I can lead it how I want to lead it. And one of the challenges I've always faced in my way of working is, and I know perfectionist is a widely abused term, so I don't want to use that term, but there's a certain way things have to be done, and I don't like to cut corners, and I do feel a lot of, in a lot of countries, the West and in Asia, there are things and sports tournaments which are done, in the right way. And I think IPL is done in the, of course, it's the biggest thing. It's just, look at it. It's huge. So I think the production and the way we're doing things, the attention to detail, because of course, God is in the detail, needs to always be there. And I do push people to do their best. And let me tell you, a lot of people, I am now finding the right, sometimes it takes a couple of events to find the right partnerships, to find people who have the same passion for their work, as you do. And I would say I have started finding those people, because initially I have, worked with some people who didn't have the same passion. There was a little bit of, I'm a Delhiite, so I can say that. So, jo Delhi wala ki ho jayega types, so, and I don't respect that. I have zero respect for people who do not take their work seriously. If you don't take your work seriously, find another a place to work. I'm not going to work with you again. I've worked with you once, so you won't find me working again with you. You have to be passionate about what you're doing. You have to give your 150%. Sometimes things come up last minute. You have to be able to do those things. You have to be able, want to rehearse. Now, with all due respect, like we had in the Mumbai event, we had a press conference, and then we had a Mumbai, our main event, and we had a host who, and I knew the person for some time, but who wasn't living up to those expectations of, listen, you need to rehearse, you need to be on the ball, you can't take it so lightly. So last minute, in the night, 11:30, I took the decision of changing them. I brought in somebody else who, and I'm glad, who had that same passion, and who realized that I'm somebody who pushes people. I push people because I hate mediocrity. I feel mediocrity is accepted in our country too much. You need to push yourself. We always see it. We are all capable of doing a lot. We need to push it. We try to plan our events, minute by minute, second by second, and have a certain fun with it. Of course, you can't plan everything because it's an event. People need to have fun and everything. But if you're planned properly, I think that is where success stems from. Of course, there's a lot of other stuff as well. It's in the marketing, and it's this, it's how you're doing it. But all of that comes from planning. It comes from research. It comes from a lot of hard work. You can't just wake up in the morning one day and say, let's do this, or this is how it should be done. You can't wing it. I don't like people who say, don't worry, no, you need to rehearse, you need to practice, you need to know what you're doing. Everything needs to fall into place, the way it should be falling into place, or better. So I don't like, well, maybe not like is the wrong word. Once I realize that if somebody is not all there, I don't associate myself with them anymore. So fortunately, I have found great team members now who think and who understand how I like to work, and the fact that I'm not going to leave it just to them. There is a certain way I like things done, and it needs to be done. There's no two ways about it. If you're not going to do it, then you're not going to be around the next time. So if you want to be associated with this league, then you need to push yourself, and you need to do things that need to be done. There are things that are going to crop up. It's not going to be perfect, but we all need to do, the things that need to be done. And like I said, I'm really glad that, I'm finding the right partners in all of these spheres now.
Are there particular cities that are dominating the sport?
I would not say cities, but there are some states which you can say are taking the lead in terms of being a little stronger in producing players and, champions. There's Punjab, Haryana, Delhi, Assam, Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, UP, and the Northeast is also very, very strong, specifically Mizoram and Manipur.
Yeah. That's something I've heard commonly across a lot of the league owners and team owners. The Northeast is definitely dominating across a lot of other sports as well, which is great to hear.
Yeah, even in combat sports, a lot of our viewership comes from the Northeast. They're very passionate about their sports: boxing, combat sports, MMA, arm wrestling. They're very, very passionate about it, and we do want to do an event in that part of the country very soon.
Amazing. Look forward to that for sure. Now, we often speak about inclusivity and diversity, and it was great to touch upon the fact that you have 3 different categories, one for men, one for women, and one for specially abled. You're also progressing towards the objectives that you've decided from day one, because we often notice that in a lot of these commercial projects, unfortunately, this sort of becomes the least of the priorities.
Well, let me say that this, what we are doing, is in no way hampering our path towards our goal. We, of course, like I said, we have 6 weight divisions for men, 2 for women, and 1 for the specially able. We treat them all equal. So basically, the top seeds, whether men, women, or specially able, get the same prize money. The second seeds get the same prize money. Doesn't matter if you're man, women, specially able. And let me tell you, they really, really appreciate and respect this fact, and they give it their all, even more, for the league and the sport, because they see that they're being respected, much more than anywhere else. It's especially for para athletes, sometimes it's very hard to even be a part of a tournament, let alone be treated equally. So,
Right.
a lot of them mention this when when they're on the stage and on the platform. We don't feel we're doing anything special or them a favor. We feel this is the way things should be, and we're just trying to lead the way. And the ladies, they're so amazing. The athletes, they come from all different backgrounds. There's mothers, there's gym trainers, there's teachers, there's farmers, there's factory workers, there's gym trainers, furniture people. They come, they're really sons and daughters of the soil, of the earth. They come from all different backgrounds, and they work so hard, to do what they want to do. So the least we can do is treat them all equally. This in no way hampers our goals. Let me tell you, they are so entertaining to watch. Whether it's the women, the guys, of course. And our Paralympian champion now, our specially able champion, Mr. Manish Kumar, now wants us to set up a fight of his with a normal, with a normal able athlete, and we're going to do that for him. So he's even taking that a step forward. So he wants to set up a match with a couple. He's told me he's beaten some of the guys, so he says can you set up a match with one of the normal match.
Wow.
Why? Which is right. Listen, if they don't want to be treated differently, then why should we? So he says, next time can you not fix it up with put it in a normal thing. I was like, okay, we're going to set you up with somebody, and we're going to give you a tough fight, because we're not putting it soft on anybody. He was like, great, give me the toughest guy, that you can. So I was like, okay. So, it's really great. So this is where I come to again, when you push people and when you bring out the best in them, they will respond. They will respond, and they will give it their all, because, they respect the fact that their talents are being respected and being put out there as well. So it's great, and I'm looking forward to that match when, we match him up with somebody, else as well.
Definitely. That's going to be one to watch. Lastly, what's next for you and the Pro Panja League from what you can tell us?
Well, we've already done 3 events, and the whole idea was, of course, to start building a brand and building something that people can already see, right? It's not something that we didn't want to take a deck around to people that this is an idea we have. No, we have a solid, we have something behind us, something which is made already. So we have 3 events. We plan on doing another one before we move to the ranking tournament, and then towards the league phase later in the year. So we are now going to start working towards building towards the league phase. We're going to go to market slowly. We already have people connecting with us for these 6 teams. So the next phase is another mega match. We're going to have one last ranking tournament. Well, it's going to be a yearly thing, but we're going to have one more ranking tournament before we go to the league phase, because that ranking tournament is what is going to be used for the league and making of the teams.
Makes sense.
Depending on how people are ranked is how they're going to be divided into the teams, because the team owners also will know how the teams are being divided and who they're getting. They need to know. They can't just come in blind. If we're giving them a certain player, if they're picking up a certain player, they need to know, how good is this guy, and that's where the ranking tournament is going to, take, and why it's going to take place,
right,
as well. So we're all very excited with the path forward. We are, of course, waiting and watching while the second wave is hitting us all, and we're just going to sit quiet for this month and the next. We're still doing a lot of things. We have a lot of content which we keep putting out. We've been building our social media pages. We have the biggest arm wrestling Facebook group in the world now, which is over 4 lakh followers. So it's really growing at a fantastic pace, and people are really joining in. So the path that we want to follow, which is a little different from other people, as in we didn't want to go direct into the league phase, is building the brand, building the matches first, is something that is working, and we're going to keep going down that path, and now going towards the league phase and making the teams, and that will be part of the calendar. There's going to be a league, which is going to be between a month to 2 months as we go forward. There's going to be a ranking tournament yearly, and there's going to be mega matches spread throughout the year.
Right. Just one last question. I should have mentioned that before, but this is officially the last question. What opportunities do you see opening up for people to be able to work for the league down the line, and also commercially with respect to brands, just because some of those listeners might be tuning in and could be helpful?
Absolutely. We have an agency on board who is now reaching out to brands. We had a couple of conversations before the lockdown, which we have started again with brands. So there's a lot of opportunities for brands. We are looking at, we've been studying leagues both in India and abroad and seeing, how to make this beneficial, let's say, for everybody, because it needs to work for everybody, right? It needs to work for the brands, it needs to work for the teams, and it needs to work for us. So we're finding the right balance everywhere. As people working, yes, we are taking on more people as we go ahead. We have been very conscious, though, of being a lean fighting machine from when we initiated to now, because I feel part of success is being smart about how you're spending money as well, and not just make these huge. You can't have 5 people doing the job of one person. So, and that is something I've been conscious about, is making sure that we are lean, but you are pushing people to do their best, and you're not just hiring people, and you're not just throwing money at a problem. You make sure that you're hiring the right people who are doing the right job, and you grow slowly as you go ahead. So there's going to be ample opportunities for people in every sphere, whether it's hospitality, operations, team management, so a lot of opportunities are opening up as we keep moving along and going forward.
Amazing. That brings me to the end of my questions, but I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation, and I really look forward to what the next season and the next iterations of the league has in store for me and everybody else.
Thank you so much, Ananya.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share for the best tips and trends in the world of sports business, wherever you listen to podcasts. Reach out over social media to connect or collaborate. Links will be in the bio. See you next time.